So it's Good Friday. I don't know what you say on Good Friday. I guess Happy Good Friday. Good Friday has always struck me as an anomaly. Those are two words that don't really fit together in this context. Good and Friday. I mean, normally we say thank God for Friday and we celebrate the weekend. But on this Friday, the day when we remember Jesus' death, it strikes me that good is a strange word to use. It's a little like April snow. They don't fit together. But I want to share with you a story that I think fits with today and all that this day is about. This story comes to you again from my favorite podcast, Radiolab. And this is a story from their series of dispatches that they have done in response to the coronavirus pandemic that's raging currently. This story is about shared immunity. In the midst of this search for some way to fight this disease, they shared a story about what scientists are up to, trying to repurpose other drugs that are sanctioned, sometimes some rheumatoid arthritis drugs or those kinds of things, but they don't know what's going to work, and so these trial usages are in action. But they've also returned to some ancient practice of using blood, other people's blood. It goes back to a notion of shared immunity. So they're taking people who've successfully thwarted the disease, people who've survived and recovered from this COVID-19, the COVID-19, and they've taken their blood, and they've taken the plasma out of the blood, because in the plasma are antibodies. Antibodies are the thing that, like the super fighters that knock out diseases. And the cool thing is that the infection rate of COVID-19 is about 3 people get infected per 1 person that gets it. And using antibodies is not a scalable way of really fighting the disease, but they're hoping they can at least provide some immediate relief and maybe in this process begin to understand what this is all about. And so these antibodies and that come in this plasma have a way of fighting off the disease. And the cool thing is, the immunity is actually transferable. And they've done this over many issues, even going back to the Spanish flu. They realized that the immunity is the thing that will help us fight against it. But it's not scalable. You can't pop a pill and be all right. No, you actually have to take someone's blood who's had the disease and fought it off to find relief from it. So it's not a scalable sort of enterprise. It's a relational enterprise, kind of a 1-to-1, or in this case, 1-to-3. The infection rate is, as I said, 3-to-1. If you get the virus, basically 3 other people get infected. And here's the cool thing about this blood plasma transfusion is that the blood plasma from 1 person can be used to help 3 people get that shared immunity. What does all this have to do with Good Friday? Well, it strikes me that Good Friday is relational in the same sort of way. That what Jesus did on Good Friday is provide us with immunity. Not that we won't suffer, not that we won't get sick, not that we won't die, but in going through the disease and being raised again in 3 days' time, when we celebrate that on Easter morning, Jesus successfully fights off this disease we call death and shares his immunity with us, gives us the power to access the resurrection as well. So I think this Friday is good, because it means for us a glimmer of hope. One that isn't scalable in some grand sort of way, that isn't a panacea that will heal us from all of things that might afflict us, but rather it's a relational one, that God knows all that we're up against, that God experiences it through His Son, Jesus, and in that process provides us with the essential immunity that we need to join Him through the power of the resurrection, and to live a life that never ends, to know that one day we too will be in God's loving embrace. So in these anxious days, in these moments where we ponder what is good, especially as it snows in April, we can rest assured that God loves us, that God knows all that we're up against, that God has given us the essential immunity that we need. Now, I know you've seen images of the COVID-19 virus, that green ball with the spikes off kind of the crowns, but I don't know if you know what the antibodies look like. If you look at an antibody under a microscope, it's basically kind of like a Y, or perhaps like someone's arms outstretched. So as you commemorate this Good Friday, however you may, I'm sure you'll at some point look at an image of a cross. And I invite you, as you see that image of the cross, to think about the image of the antibody. That in a way, that antibody is kind of like those arms stretched out, like Jesus stretched out His arms on the cross, on the hardwood of the cross, in love for us. I hope you'll see that cross and know that God shares God's immunity with us. And even though it may snow in April, and even though we may get sick and die, that we can trust and be assured that God lives in us, and we will live in God forever. This is the hope of the resurrection. This is the hope we even have in the midst of the darkness and the coldness of this Good Friday.